Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the Alpha Weekly webinar series. Today, we have a special treat with a participant all the way from Asia in the middle of the night. So please give, a special warm round of applause to all of our participants virtually, and I'll let them introduce themselves individually. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of Alpha, and I'll let Renata be the next one.
Hi everyone, I'm Renata Tome. I'm a co-founder at Alpha, and today I'm going to be talking about a project we developed with the amazing Leeroy and Luca Parolari, and did I pronounce it so wrong, from Pinto Art.
Well, first, thank you for inviting me, and apologies if there's a little bit of background noise. We had some logistic difficulties, but I'm happy. I was glad to join, nevertheless. So I am a co-founder and director of Pinto International, which is the international arm and sister organization to the Pinto Art Museum and related foundation in the Philippines. This is a company, a foundation that has been promoting contemporary art and artists in the Philippines for about 30 years. And then we restarted it. We started this international organization to bring Philippine contemporary art to the US and to Europe. And so this started about 3 years ago, and we organized a number of shows in different cultural capitals around the world. So we did Tokyo and 2 shows in New York, a show in Milan. We have one in the works in Madrid. And meanwhile, we have a space in New York City where we do monthly salon type events to promote some of the shows and work we do in the city, as well as for exhibitions every year that put in communication and conversation Filipino artists with other international artists. And Leeroy was actually our inauguration show last March, and he will be talking about some of the themes of that particular show and some other themes that are part of his artistic production. Yeah, maybe we can also touch later on some of the other shows that we've been organizing and building from our collaboration with Leeroy. So I'll pass it on to him, and I'll mute myself because, as you heard, ambulances and
no, we like it.
Yeah, I know, more authentic.
Keeping it
right?
real.
Yeah, exactly. Leeroy.
Okay. Hello. My name is Leeroy. I guess to put it simply, I'm an interdisciplinary artist and designer. I'm generally based in Manila, but yeah, I guess work takes me wherever. Yeah, so like Luca mentioned, I have had my first shows with, under Pinto with Boston Gallery, which is kind of like a related art space, and to the Pinto organization, museum and foundation. And I generally do large-scale interactive installations, but because I collaborate a lot with performers and theater makers, I end up designing wearable pieces as well. And my installations end up becoming performance spaces for these collaborations.
Leeroy, I think our first question would be, can you talk a little bit more about how did you develop your current style, and how did you go from traditional training as a sculptor and navigate it through all of the different practices until getting what you are today?
I'm originally from the south of the Philippines, in this city called General Santos City. And I guess back then, I didn't really have any access to contemporary art making practices, or even like this was before internet. So all the art that I ever knew were these paintings that were being peddled in the streets by these local artisans, and there were very few of them, and then I managed to get myself into this art school, an art high school, and that place just kind of blew my mind. I was mentored by installation artists, sculptors who did like these kinetic monumental pieces. I also had an instructor who transformed pink baby sweaters into vaginas, stuff like that. Like, I mean, before that, I only knew how to like paint fruits on a table.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
Very traditional
a lot
training.
of monsters. Yeah, exactly. Nutrition Month poster making contests, stuff like that. And so yeah, at that point, it just kind of blew my mind and kind of gave me this idea that art can be a lot of things, and almost anything. So that led me to like constantly explore different ways of art making and creative production. I collaborated with my theater major friends, dance major friends, and we ended up designing their sets, their costumes. So it was very natural for me to apply my training in sculpture to accommodate the human body, spatial relationships, performance, and movement, and public spaces as well. So yeah.
Oh, that's really incredible. I believe you already touched upon this, but can you develop a little bit more of an idea of like how is it that being how the Philippine culture from the Philippines impacts your work, and maybe what is going on right now in your country and how that is seeing the work you're developing right now?
The choice for me to do a lot of large-scale site-specific installations was to address the idea that Filipinos don't go to galleries or museums to enlighten themselves. We're not a museum or gallery-going culture, and so as art students, we had to always consider this idea of connecting with the Filipino audience who do not have the luxury to visit these art sanctioned spaces. And so these questions led us to doing street art, which evolved to sculptural interventions in public spaces, which evolved to public guerrilla performances, where I would create sculptural wearable pieces for my collaborators to wear and perform in these different public spaces that we would choose depending on the specific motivations of that performance.
So like I got a quote from an interview that says that I draw from the ingenuity and resourcefulness of Manila's urban poor. Basically don't throw things away. Instead, they perform random objects into decorative pieces from their home, have year-long Christmas celebrations.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yes, so that's like really like something that like you can like see immediately, like or maybe like first time you look at your work, like you see this beautiful environment and like this like beautiful creation, and then when you start looking closely, you start seeing like the different parts, like and really identifying the day-to-day object. How was that like developed, like, and how is that like different, like the work that you're developing maybe like in the Philippines and after when you came to the US? And I think that would be like a good opportunity for us to start talking about this collaboration with Pinto and Alpha eventually.
Yes. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I see it everywhere in the urban environment of the Philippines. Like, your regular Filipinos have a knack for hoarding things and repurposing them or transforming them into other means of livelihood. Like, for example, like these plastic bottles, which they transform into Christmas decoration. And I think I'm really just tapping into this inclination for us to do this, to decorate, the fiesta sensibility. We love our celebrations. We love decorating our homes. We like celebrating abundance, being from the tropics where everything grows in your backyard. So I think it's coming from that sensibility, and it just kind of move towards what I do, where I basically just make use of what is available. I go to like huge market districts. I kind of explore random objects that they sell there, play with them, and if I come up with something interesting with this interaction, like an interesting textile composition, or possibly an accessory to a body, that's kind of how I end up doing these spaces out of these interesting encounters with everyday objects.
Leeroy, from the collaboration that we did, one thing that struck particularly with me, being an alien as well, like once we immigrate to the United States, we're immediately branded aliens.
Exactly.
I felt so many times in my life where I felt like one of your pieces just walking around the city. And I kind of wanted to understand how that came to you as well. Just that hook and those everyday objects. What does it mean to be an alien of Manila?
Yeah, me and my friends, my collaborators, were just, drinking one night. We were joking around, and someone mentioned Humans of New York. It was kind of like trendy at that time. We were just basically joking, like if we had to do a version of this street style New York photography blog, what would it be? I mean, and then someone pointed out that we're not humans here. We're aliens. Like, it has to do with this displacement that we feel with our own city, and how infrastructure is kind of like anti-pedestrian, or like a lot of like inhuman systems that are currently left as they are, without improving on them. Like long lines just to get on a train or on a bus. And then my mom, who is an overseas Filipino worker, or OFWs we call them, who works in New York as a nanny. To me, she's like one of the original aliens of Manila. She had to like leave us when we were in high school, when I was in high school, to work in the USA as a caregiver and then as a nanny. And so this, it just falls into this idea of displacement from where you are, from your own home, and being displaced from where you grew up, just to make a living, just to be able to survive, and support your family. So all these, and now it's there's another layer to that, this idea of being an alien, where I am constantly having to provide a specific service, a creative, artistic service, by going to different countries and doing actual labor, by making installations on the spot on these specific sites in different museums or galleries or outdoor public spaces. So again, I've kind of like mythologized this idea of moving from one place to another, the idea of a migrant worker, but providing a very specific creative service.
It's fantastic. And Luca, I think my next question is for you. Like, being an Italian alien, what drew you to Leeroy's work? What was it? How did you find him? How did the two of you meet?
Okay, so yeah, we as Leeroy was mentioning earlier, some of his first works were done with Dr. Kwanang and the galleries and this sort of group of artists and art lovers that is based in the Philippines. That's how I started Pinto International, as mentioned previously, as a sort of international arm of this organization. And Leeroy, I was aware of his work for several years since I got connected with Dr. Kwanang, who is the founder and initiator of Pinto in the Philippines. And once we decided to have our exhibition in New York in last year, a year and a half ago at this point, we thought, what could be more interesting and more on brand with what we're trying to do than bring in the art of Leeroy that is so visually pleasing and striking, and at the same time has so many different layers that are totally in line with what we're trying to do at Pinto International. So it was really the decision was made, it wasn't even a decision that we had to make. It was so obvious that Leeroy was the perfect person to begin this. And we're really happy that we made this decision and that Leeroy, decided to support us and join us in this adventure, because the show came out fantastic and a lot of people were very interested in this exhibition in New York. We got good press, and that was also the beginning of a number of other collaborations that we embarked on. Since one of these, it's also with you guys, as you know. Well, we took some of the. So Leeroy was mentioning the aliens, the humans of New York, how that to some extent, in an ironic way, inspired and informed the aliens of Manila. And so in line with this, we took Leeroy took pictures of some of the aliens of these costumes along the in the streets of New York. So it was truly the humans of New York, but with the alien twist, so trying to fit in, trying to be who they are within the
we
street
had
of New
some
York.
crazy adventures.
I'm
Absolutely, yes.
sure.
Oh my god, yeah.
Dynamic duo.
And yeah, especially the first day you arrived. The armory show. Yeah, so out of that particular photographs and bringing the aliens in the fabric of the city, some photographs came out of it, and then we teamed up with Alpha to make them into a limited series that actually you can find on the website, and then we saw some of them going through the background earlier, and so that's
Here they are. Here they are. They're back.
Yes. And
so that's
guys,
how we all got connected. The three pieces of this conversation, and with
Exactly.
Leeroy, we also have some other projects that we have been working on since last year. For Leeroy was very busy outside also Asia. So as he can maybe talk more about it, he had shows in LA and a very important show at the Palais de Tokyo in Paris. And among these, we decided to bring some of this art to Burning Man, which is a festival in the desert in Nevada that celebrates art and, you know, the aliens of all the world, if you will. And from there, we decided to move forward and suggest another project that Leeroy has been working on, and maybe he can also talk about a little bit about that.
Manuela is showing some pictures, I think, from the Burning Man project. What is that, Leeroy? Can you talk about what you've done and what you're planning for? Unfortunately, next year only.
Well, yeah. I have Luca to thank for challenging ourselves to propose to build an installation for Burning Man, well, he managed to convince me to go to Burning Man last year as well to set up like the remains of our New York Pinto International installation in one of the camps there. And yeah, so Lucas very pushy that way, but I'm very grateful for it because yeah, we get ourselves in these situations, but it's all worth it in the end.
Some of the adventures, yeah.
So we managed to get selected. The proposal that we prepared for the installation grant for Burning Man was one of the proposals chosen to be built for the next whenever that next one will be.
Mm-hmm.
And title is called Mebuyan, which is the name of a Filipina goddess in the south from Bagodo mythology. She is described as a goddess of life and death. She resides in the underworld, and her body is covered in breasts, which she uses to nourish the spirits of dead children, because the spirits in the afterlife still need to go through another journey, and they need to be nourished in order to go through with that second journey after life. So visually, I think it's quite obvious where these orbs, these cluster of orbs, to me represent kind of like isolation pods in a way. It's an interactive installation where people can access through different stairs and access different spheres which are connected by bridgeways. Some spheres are big enough to accommodate small groups, and some spheres are just big enough to accommodate just one person. And each sphere will provide a completely different experience from the last one, and so on and so forth. Different textures, different lighting effects, and very different vibes. And you can just stay in one orb and then move to the next if you get bored. So that's kind of the idea. Burning Man.
Looks amazing.
Yeah,
a lot of fun. I cannot wait to see it in person.
Yeah, for reference, you can see in the image that you see there, maybe it's not super clear, at least on my phone, but you can see two tiny little person. One of the two is actually Leeroy wearing his orange swimsuit.
Armor.
And
so
that's
accurate.
So that's clear. It's a gigantic undertaking, and especially when it comes to the logistical aspects of building this and transporting this in the middle of the desert in Nevada.
Yeah. So what are some of the challenges when you're building such a massive installation in the middle of the desert, like it's Burning Man? And then if you continue, going on this path and talking about some inflection points you've had in your career, moments of maybe hardship, that helped you getting to where you are.
Yeah, I mean, I guess every project is its own challenge. It's never, it never gets easier. Each terrain, each location presents its own sets of challenges, and it was a good thing that we, Luca and I managed. Luca managed to bring me last year to Burning Man because, I mean, for one, I think the grant, they prioritize people who've actually been to Burning Man, and that is crucial because you get the sense of the terrain, you get the sense of the challenges that comes with building something in the middle of nothing but dust, and sand, and there's really nothing there. So I've had rehearsals for challenging terrain. I've done work over water. We've built floating islands. We've built villages over water, in tree houses, in sand dunes. But yeah, what's daunting here is just the geographical, distance from where my base is. That's something, I guess, unique to this particular project, which Luca said he'll be happy to take care of. 90%.
Yeah. You just pack it all, and I'll take care of it. Don't worry.
I'll take care of the screwing and the hammering.
Exactly. Yeah. I'll do it. No, I mean
the Italian handyman.
Yes, exactly.
I think Manuela has a question that relates to that. Like after so much work, like building like this structure, like, and you pack it up, like, and it's not there anymore.
Yeah, my question is like working with performance art, working with large scale installation. The nature of the work is naturally ephemeral, right? It lives in a place and then it disappears. How do you I kind of have like a cheat answer in the back of my head because it also relates to our participation. But how do you make these projects less eternal? How do you turn the ephemeral into the eternal, basically?
We have similar answers in mind regarding that. I guess that's why part of the output of my work are the recorded images and videos and the moving images. That's mostly what we can, hang on to at this point. That's why these records are crucial, and we've really kind of just shifted to the internet and all these online platforms as a legitimate means of extending these ephemeral works. It takes on a totally different context when it comes to documenting these pieces. But from the very start, I've learned to like let go of my work. I've had to like build and pack up so many installations before that I'm numb at this point. I'm kidding. I'm
dead inside.
I'm dead inside. I have no feelings. But no, it's a different high when you know that you're only able to enjoy it at a limited number of time, and that's why it's crucial to like do as many records and documentations and reiterations of that moment, and the images that you presented and that you're showcasing for us are examples of these images.
And another thing I was thinking about while you were saying this is also the fact that the nature of these pieces is, I mean, as Leeroy mentioned earlier, a lot of his work is based on repurposing pieces, like plastic pieces and other objects that are used for different that were built initially with a different use in mind. And this, like all the funnels, the strainers, the fly swatters, the dusters that he uses that are typical objects of service workers that build up the installation we had in New York. Oftentimes they are, taken down, repackaged, mixed and matched with other materials that are sourced in different places around the world. And so they keep having, so in line with the practice of making do with what you have that is typical Filipino, together with repurposing, objects for the most varied uses. Leeroy is taking a lot of these components of different costumes, wearable sculptures, installations, and he takes them around with him around the world. And so in this sense, think about our own installation that I had, I was lucky to be part of. A lot of it, for a number of reasons, logistical cost and so on, a lot of it had to be bought in New York. But from my understanding, it's fairly exceptional. Like a lot of the materials often are transported from one place to the other, because maybe in Asia is also easier than.
Yeah, I would always, whenever I'd go to Pinto, I'd have like 3-4 huge suitcases with me, filled with stuff from Manila, from Hong Kong, from Taiwan. So yeah, the resulting installation has a very interesting mix of very specific cultural objects. I mean, I don't necessarily like using plastics, but it's initially, as an art student, I was trying to make use of what was available, and it just so happens the large majority of Filipinos end up using these cheap, made in China domestic objects, which are usually in plastic or in neon colors. Yeah, but it's just it's like Luca mentioned. It's really a reflection of the spaces that I go to collect these objects, and where these spaces, like the huge market district that I mentioned, you get a sense of the pulse of the nation, of the country, of the people, because these whatever's trendy, you'll find it there. If SpongeBob's trendy one year, you'll see all SpongeBob products in that huge market district. Or if it's all K-pop, you'll see like all K-pop, brand, whatever, like from wedding souvenirs to notebooks with K-pop celebrities' faces on them. So it's really interesting for me to like respond in that sense. Yeah. Like when I visited New York to do the installation, I went to the 99-cent stores because one, it was practical, it was cost effective. These were the materials that I could get a lot of in bulk, but I also brought with me all these other objects that I had used from previous installations. So these pieces, transform from spatial installations to costumes the next, and then back to installations, and then costumes the next. So yeah, they're constantly being revived in different forms, Yeah.
The ephemerality that you were asking about, Manuela. I mean, these pieces keep living to some extent, and they keep becoming something different, and that's also part of the soul of the pieces themselves. Actually, yeah, we still have the installation we did in New York. I was saying we had all those pieces, like we brought them to Nevada, so they were packed in this massive crate, brought back, washed, and then they were ready for another installation actually in New York that they would have required for them to be combined with new pieces. And yes. that's part of the process of creation for Leeroy.
For us to wrap it up, we would like to know, like, what do you see looking forward, you know, like besides from like the beautiful Burning Man sculpture that you shared with us, how does your career developing, and what are like perhaps some dream projects that you still haven't accomplished, the lockdown put like slightly late to it, and that you'd like to see maybe in the next year or in the near future?
Well, I mentioned Burning Man already, so that was one thing that, you know, people always, you know, kept mentioning to me, and now I'm actually, you know, doing something for Burning Man. But I am also working on filmmaking. I've done a lot of work as a production designer before for local TV shows and some films, but eventually I would want to do my own film. So yeah, which I have actually, it just hasn't been released yet because of the pandemic. We were supposed to launch this short film that we shot early this year. But yeah, life got in the way. Okay, but or not.
Well, we look forward to seeing that. It's definitely going to be an amazing project, like every other one. Well, guys, we unfortunately have to wrap it up. We're out of time today, but this conversation should definitely be continued in the future. It has been such an immense pleasure having you here with us. And thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
For our guests, please stay tuned. Next Friday at 1 p.m. we will continue with more interesting conversations.
Thank you so much. And Leeroy, go to sleep.
Bedtime for me.
Bedtime for Leeroy.
Thank you for staying awake for this.
Thank you all.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye. It was a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.